Welcome into Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts with CPA and personal financial specialist Phil Putney. Now let's get rolling with today's show. It's time for another edition of Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts, and it's time to get back to basics.
Back to the basics.
That's right. Last couple of weeks, Phil, we've been doing a bunch of fairly in-depth stuff, I guess. Lots to cover with the Secure Act and things of that nature. Let's kind of back it up, rewind it a little bit, and just kind of reset and just do the basic understandings of income planning, some things, because we need to have, we got to have a good foundation, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So, that statement that if you don't have an income plan, you don't really have a retirement plan. Many people have heard that. Do you agree with that statement? We'll kind of kick it off right there. Do you feel as though that's the key component to anything is the income plan?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look back at, back in the day, a lot of the original pushes for retirement savings, the what's your number, right? It was always about building that account. And that's been the focus throughout your career is save, build the account. Well, that's great.
Right.
But when you get to retirement, what's it all about? Well, it's not about how much you have. It really, how much can I spend? You've been used to having this paycheck every single month. Right. Well, you no longer have that. You're retired. Where's that money going to come from? So it's not about how much you have. Well, how much can I get in the most tax efficient manner through retirement? And that's income. So it's no longer the amount you have and where it's positioned. It's how do you now convert that to income? So you have to have a strategy to make that happen.
Well, the funny thing about people is we switch stuff depending on what we're doing. Because if you think about before we made it our own onus in doing that, and it was everyone had a pension. If you go back to the 40s or the 50s, it was about income. That's the whole point of the pension, right? Yeah. So we switched the, how we're doing it and then kind of switched the idea and went, oh, well, now it's I don't know if it was the 80s, I don't know if or what, but it was like accumulate, get as much as you can, stuff it all in this account, right? Kind of thing. So we kind of flipped the gears a little bit and, so we're back to hopefully focusing on the fact that, it's about what you need each month to pay the bills, to cover everything, but then also do the things you want to do in retirement. So.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of general rules of thumb out there that I think people have been relying on to some extent to at least give a general direction of saying, well, I can take 4%, the old 4% rule, which has been recalculated to 3% based on, the current earnings for bonds, et cetera. 2 point, I mean, it keeps dropping. And I mean, that's always going to be in flux. But again, that's a general rule of thumb. That's, sticking your thumb out there and saying, I think it's going to work. It's not a plan for sure, in my mind, at least. And, unless you want to go into retirement with that, unknown of, I think this is going to work and be willing to take less income and more income, depending on what an account's doing.
Well, if you're focusing on income, right? So you got to have the income. Then the next question, for me anyway, is where's it coming from? Where are you taking it from at what time, right? So to me, that becomes the kind of the next logical step. Okay, I have a collection of stuff.
Right.
Which one do I use first? When? Where? How? Why? To me, it's more like like an English class: who, what, where, when, why, than how much money you've got.
Yeah, and that to me, it's a puzzle, really, is the way I look at it. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to have a goal. What do I need? What is my goal? How much do I need monthly? Growing that throughout retirement for inflation. And that's where you have to start. Now let's start looking at the pieces to make that happen. First of all, Social Security, which a lot of times you're not thinking of when you're thinking of assets. People, when they're going into retirement thinking, okay, I got Social Security. I'm going to take it when I retire. That's 62, whatever it is. Not giving any thought to how that plays in, but that really, it should be part of the overall strategy to say, okay, I mean, if I need $7,000 a month, well, what's my Social Security benefit? Do I take it early and take that discount so I take less from my accounts, or do I?
4,000's coming from there. I mean, you're over halfway there, right?
Right. So, or do I delay it, get a bigger benefit? So I've got to fill a gap earlier on, but then where do I take that money from? But now later on, I've got less stress on the retirement accounts and more of it's guaranteed, has cost of living. So really putting together this income plan is beyond the assets. I mean, the assets are part of it for sure.
That's how they generate, right?
There's a lot of pieces that play in. Social Security. Maybe you've got a pension, fortunately. You're still one of the people that do have this pension. Well, how much is it? Where does that fit in? Is there survivor benefits? Did you elect that? Does it have a cost of living? I mean, there's all these different components that come in to come up to here's what I need for income.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the difference in an income plan versus just, having a retirement account saying, okay, I'm going to take 4%, collect Social Security at this age, and you're kind of running with it and just winging it versus here's my goal. How do I strategically make that happen and have the highest probability of success long-term and have it most tax efficient?
Well, over the last number of years, we'll just say since the big crash in '08, people have been getting smarter about getting ready for this stuff.
Right.
Just ballpark it. People come into the office for the first time, first conversation. How many of them just say, just have a collection of stuff versus how many actually have an income plan? I would imagine it's probably very few truly have an income plan when they first walk in, unless they were working with somebody else and it's a second opinion.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, most clients that I meet with, they don't have an income plan. To your point, I mean, maybe they've worked with an advisor and had a general kind of a napkin sketch. I mean, that's
right.
So, I would say if any of them had done anything, it's really that napkin sketch of, I think I'm going to do this. And here's what my Social Security benefit is. I got a general idea, which is great. At least they've got an idea. But most people have no idea. They just know, well, I want this amount of money, I think. And again, that's a big question. Oftentimes they haven't really given thought to what do I need? What's my lifestyle look like in retirement? And you have to start there.
Well, why are we
then start putting the pieces together?
Yeah. Why are we so, I don't know, unprepared, woefully unprepared in this thing? Clearly financial education has been bad in our country for a long time.
Yes.
But it's gotta be just more than that too, doesn't it?
Well, I think a lot of it is people don't realize the complexities in retirement. And I hear it all the time. People that have attended my classes and at the end of it, realizing I had no idea.
Well, my parents didn't do it. That's I hear that
options and how these pieces fit together. Or looking back and say, well, my parents, they no big deal. They collected a pension, they had Social Security.
They were fine, right?
Yeah, it worked out good for them, and it's probably not going to work out the same for you. It's a much, much different environment from the markets alone. Much less what that three-legged stool used to be, right? Social Security, pension, and your portion of the income. Well, the three-legged stool is getting really wobbly. The third leg's probably gone for most people. They don't even have that pension anymore. So now it's a two-legged stool you're trying to balance on, and Social Security is a big piece of it. So,
I'm 51. My dad retired in '90.
Yeah.
He didn't live very long into retirement, but if I based it off of looking at that, and I get where people come from, he didn't do any planning. I never saw him meet with an advisor. Heck, I'm not even sure there were many financial advisors in the late '80s, early '90s. I know there were, but it wasn't necessary. There was nowhere near the industry that it is now.
Correct. Well, and back then it wasn't your portion of the retirement income wasn't as great. It was kind of the Social Security and pension that made up the need.
Right. Sure.
Your portion was all the extras. So in that kind of a scenario,
kind of the fun money almost.
There's not a lot of planning, really. It's and people I think lived much differently back then, much simpler. It's like, well, here's what this is what I made.
Back then is hurtful. It's only like 35 years ago. Right?
I know. But it's a different time frame.
No, it really is. It really is. So what steps, Phil, should we be taking back to basics? What steps should we be taking to put an effective plan together?
Well, it starts with planning early, right? Don't think that, well, this is something that I'm 10 years from retirement, 5 years from retirement, especially. I don't need to deal with it. I'll get there. And, the year before retirement, I start looking at it.
Right.
Wrong answer. Right. 5 years at a minimum, you need to really start looking at this to see, does it work? Are there things I can do today
Takes time
to put myself in a better position later? So start earlier than later. And then the next thing is understand what retirement looks like. Have that discussion between you and your spouse. Don't wait till I'm retired and now we're trying to figure this out. And what does it look like? And, your spouse's version.
Don't do it in front of the advisor, right?
Travel.
To some degree you can, right? To some degree, but how many advisors do you know, and you've seen yourself, Phil, people come in and maybe you ask them a question and you can tell it's the first time they've ever even asked each other that question, right?
Yep.
Talk about some stuff, and it's going to happen. Don't get me wrong, folks.
It happens. It's natural. I see it all the time, and when that discussion comes up, and they're like, "Wait a minute, I didn't know you wanted to do that." And it's like, "Well, yeah, okay, that's great. Well, you started the discussion. Let's have that discussion."
But the more you can do, right?
Yes.
It's to your point about 5 years plus getting started. The more you guys can talk about these things, the more you're going to make that even easier when you go in to see a professional.
Right. Easier and better for you too. Cause I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've met with clients too that are, a couple of years out and maybe getting forced into this decision and they're, I don't want to look at it because I don't think I'm ready.
Right.
And they're ready. They could retire today.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't you want to have known that maybe 5 years earlier? And maybe there was something different you would have done. So don't be afraid. It's like going to the doctor, right? Don't be afraid to go to the doctor because I don't want to know what they're going to tell me. Right.
Yep.
No, find out, just go do it. If it's good news or bad news, whatever it is, figure it out, have a plan to get you on the right path.
Yep.
Don't wait till here's the day, whether it's your choice or not, to get forced into that decision. And maybe there's different things you could have done to get yourself more prepared at that point. So start early.
Most basic concepts, income.
Yep. Income. It all comes down to income first. I mean, that's the first goal is what is the income? And then how do we make that more tax efficient?
Those are the first two.
Yep.
Okay.
And I mean, usually at the end of the day is whatever's left is left. Most of the clients I work with, they don't have a set goal of I want to leave X amount to the kids. It's, hey, if there's money left, great. It's whatever's left is left. But if that is a goal, maybe that fits in there too.
And I'm not oversimplifying that, folks, because don't think it's just the two items. Like Phil said, there's a ton of things you have to do. But if you're thinking about basic concepts, realize you got to get your income there and be as tax efficient as possible. Getting those two things underway will make a huge impact to your overall retirement.
Absolutely. I mean, those are the basics you need to start with is what do I need? And then where's that money going to come from? How do I make it work most efficient? So.
Okay. All right. So back to basics, nice and easy, this podcast. So if you got some questions, need some help, you want to get, strip it down, get it back to basics, get started, whatever it is. We are obviously, we're first month of 23 is almost into the books here.
It's hard to believe.
So, I mean, a month's already gone by. So let's get busy. Let's get started. Have a conversation. Get rolling. It doesn't hurt. Doesn't cost anything. So why in the heck would you not do so? So reach out to Phil or reach out to any financial professional, but certainly make sure that you vet them and check them out. It's one of the reasons we do the podcast, so you can spend time getting to know us a little bit. I'm not a advisor, but Phil is. So you can check him out online at finra.org or broker check, whatever you want to do, but do the diligence for yourself. Have a conversation with a financial professional like Phil Putney, which again, you can find him at philstaxhacks.com. I almost forgot. I say it every week. 248-888-7530. Go slow it down. 248-888-7530 if you want to give him a call or just stop by philstaxhacks.com. Buddy, thanks for hanging out. Always appreciate you.
Thanks. Have a good week.
All right, you have a good one. We'll see you guys next time here on Phil's Tax Hacks and other retirement facts.
Investment advisory services offered through AFS Wealth Management. The content of this program is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. Investments and/or investment strategies involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. There is no assurance that any investment strategy will achieve its objectives.